Today, we're diving into something pretty complex and often quite charged. Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code, it's a really fascinating way to look at law and society interacting. And the big question we're asking here is this law a necessary shield for women, or is it sometimes, as people argue, misused like a sword? We're going to unpack our sources, look at the intent, the application, the controversies, really try to give you that well-informed view.
Yeah, it's a compelling piece of law, absolutely,
Yep.
because it touches so directly on, family life, social issues. What's really fascinating here, I think, is that interplay. You've got the legal text, society changing, and these deeply personal situations all wrapped up together. So we'll trace it from the start right up to the debates happening now, aiming for balance.
Okay, good. So let's start right at the beginning. What is Section 498A? Why was it actually brought in? And what problem was it meant to solve back then?
Right. So Section 498A came into the Indian Penal Code in 1983. This was a time when India was really grappling with dowry-related violence. Harassment against married women was a huge issue, so its main job, its purpose, was to fight back against that cruelty within marriage. Specifically, it punishes the husband or his relatives if they subject the woman to cruelty.
Okay, cruelty. That sounds broad. When the law says cruelty, what are we actually talking about? Is it just, physical violence, or is it more?
That's a key point. It is deliberately broad. It covers any willful conduct that's likely to drive a woman to suicide or cause grave injury, and that can be physical or mental injury. But it also specifically calls out harassment for dowry, pressure for dowry or coercion linked to it. So, yeah, it aims to cover both the physical and the psychological aspects.
And if someone's found guilty under 498A, what happens then? What kind of, teeth does the law have?
Well, the punishment can be imprisonment for up to 3 years. And here's where it gets its real power, and also where some controversy comes in later. It's classified as non-bailable. So bail isn't automatic. It has to be argued for and cognizable.
Cognizable meaning?
Meaning the police can make an arrest without needing a warrant first.
Wow. Okay. So immediate implications. Arrest possible right away.
Exactly. That immediate power gives it a strong deterrent effect. Definitely. But, like we'll get into, it also makes the stakes very high from the moment an accusation is made.
Right. So given that power,
Yeah.
let's unpack how it works on the ground. Who can actually be charged? Is it just the husband? And who can file the complaint?
The law says the husband or his relatives. And relatives can be interpreted quite widely. Parents-in-law, siblings-in-law, sometimes even more distant family members.
Yeah.
As for who files it, usually it's the wife herself. Or her family can file it for her. Once that happens, the police register an FIR, a first information report. That kicks off the investigation.
And then arrests might follow.
Potentially, yes. Investigation happens, maybe arrests. Then it goes to the courts. And the courts might grant bail, or often, especially these days, they might suggest mediation first, try to resolve things that way.
Okay. And here's where, as you said, it gets really interesting. Because for all its important goals, 498A is right at the center of a huge debate about misuse. What are the main criticisms you hear?
Yeah, the loudest criticism, and you hear it a lot, is that it's sometimes used as a kind of weapon, in bitter divorce cases or family disputes. The allegation is that it gets used for vengeance or as leverage to maybe get a better settlement or just to sort of punish the husband's family. And it's not just, random talk. The Supreme Court itself, back in 2017, in the Rajesh Sharma case, they explicitly acknowledged this risk. They talked about the law sometimes becoming an engine of oppression. Strong words from the top court.
Engine of oppression. Wow, yeah, that's powerful. So if the Supreme Court saw this potential for misuse, what did they do about it? Did they introduce any checks or balances?
They did, absolutely. In that Rajesh Sharma judgment, they laid down several safeguards. Things like suggesting family welfare committees to kind of vet complaints before arrests happen. They stressed arrests shouldn't be automatic. Police needed to do a preliminary check first. And there was a push towards counseling, reconciliation, trying to avoid immediate arrests unless absolutely necessary, sort of cooling things down.
But that's not the whole story, is it? Because you've got this concern about misuse, but then there's the argument that the law is still vital. What do women's rights activists say? How do they view this tension?
Exactly. That's the core dilemma. Despite acknowledging, yes, misuse can happen, many activists argue very strongly that the law is still absolutely crucial. If you look at the bigger picture, domestic violence is often hidden, severely underreported. Women face huge societal pressure sometimes to just endure abuse. For them, Section 498A is a vital lifeline. It's a legal tool they can actually use to seek protection or justice. Their argument is basically that the existence of some misuse shouldn't overshadow the law's fundamental purpose for genuine victims. It's a tough balancing act, protecting victims versus preventing misuse of the process.
And the courts have continued to weigh in on this balancing act, haven't they? Let's talk about some specific cases that have really shaped how 498A is applied today.
Yeah, two really stand out. First, there's Arnesh Kumar versus the state of Bihar in 2014. This was huge because it directly tackled those automatic arrests we talked about. Before Arnesh Kumar, the non-bailable, cognizable nature often meant immediate arrest upon complaint.
Which could be misused.
Precisely. So Arnesh Kumar laid down guidelines for police, essentially saying arrest should be the exception, not the rule, in 498A cases, especially where the punishment is less than 7 years. It required magistrates to scrutinize the need for arrest.
Okay, so that was about limiting automatic arrests. What else?
Then, fast forward to 2018, there's the Social Action Forum for Manav Adhikar versus Union of India case. And this one is interesting because the Supreme Court actually walked back some of the safeguards from the Rajesh Sharma judgment, like those family welfare committees. They felt those committees might be creating too many hurdles for genuine victims trying to get help quickly. So it shows this constant adjustment, this recalibration, trying to find that sweet spot between preventing misuse and ensuring victims have access to justice. It really raises that important question about how you fine-tune these powerful laws.
So with all these rulings, this back and forth, where does it leave Section 498A now? What are the main debates happening around it today? How might it change going forward?
Oh, the debate is still very much alive. There are a few key things being discussed. One big one is whether Section 498A should be made compoundable, meaning could the parties settle the case out of court, withdraw the charges by mutual agreement? Right now, as a criminal offense, that's generally not allowed easily. Making it compoundable could allow for quicker resolutions in some cases, but others worry it might pressure victims into settling.
Okay, delegate.
There's also talk about scope. Should it explicitly cover, say, reverse abuse cases, situations where husbands might claim cruelty from wives or their families, though other laws might apply there already? And then there's this broader question. Is the law, as written in 1983, still the right fit for, say, modern urban marriages? With changing family dynamics, economic independence, does it need tweaking for today's realities? It's all part of trying to find that balance.
It really does sound like that double-edged sword analogy from our sources is spot on. On one side, it's clearly a critical shield, giving a voice to women who might otherwise suffer silently. But its strength also means, yes, there's a risk of it being turned into a weapon in messy family disputes. Like that quote said, like many Indian laws, the devil lies not in the text, but in the execution. So thinking about everything we've discussed, what really stands out to you from this deep dive? It's such a clear example of how law interacts with real life, isn't it? Constantly being shaped and debated.
Absolutely. And perhaps the thought to leave you with is this. Think about how any powerful legal tool, even one created with the best intentions, like protecting the vulnerable, inevitably gets tangled up in complex human behavior and biases and societal pressures. The whole ongoing debate around 498A isn't just about this one section of the penal code. It really reflects society's wider, constant struggle, doesn't it? Trying to balance justice with fairness, protection, with the potential for overreach. It's something to mull over. Maybe think about how that same tension plays out with other laws you encounter.